Coach Mo.
Hey, it's Coach Mo.
Hey, it's Coach Mo.
Knowing what you want to accomplish professionally is just the beginning. I'm Coach Mo, and this podcast is for young professionals and emerging leaders who want to lead, achieve, and succeed at work. You've got executive ambitions and the drive to get there. Join me for perspective, insights, and thought-provoking questions that only you can answer. Today's episode starts now.
Tuesdays with Coach Mo.
Wow. The current reality of this pandemic has really prompted many of us to consider what our life will be like when we kind of collectively arrive on the other side. What is going to be our new normal? I'm reminded of Maya Angelou's quote, "No one can make you feel a certain way unless you give them permission to do so." That prompts me to think that although we're not referring to another person, we are referring to the situation that's just come out of nowhere, this pandemic, and upended our lives, that we are still in control of who we are. And this pandemic, or anything else for that matter, can't disrupt what we know to be true about what is inside of us. Yes, this is some force of nature, but look, we were each put here on this earth to have a purpose. Now, it may take a while for you to discover what that is because that noise going on around us called the pandemic is happening whether we like it or not. But how we choose to show up in the face of this is within each of us. This is what's motivated me for today's topic of discovering your life purpose. Because yes, there have been other instances, maybe not at the same magnitude, but of situations beyond our control, and how we show up in those moments are very telling for us. So I'm reminded of a story and an experience I had as a young professional when I found myself at a fork in the road that really was prompted by some external event called Black Monday. So think for a moment, when in your life have you found yourself to have no choice but to make a choice? How did you decide which way to go, which path to follow? In today's episode about life purpose, how it factors into important decisions that we make in our work and life. So here I was standing again as a young professional at the fork in the road for what at this time was the biggest decision point in my life. Do I decide to take, in one hand, a job offer I had just worked hard to earn? Or do I continue to forge ahead in a very undefined role at my current employer of Eastman Kodak Company? And the job actually on paper didn't exist. You see, when I began working as a young professional at Kodak, I was hired as a copier sales rep. How I got that job, in fact, is an interesting story in and of itself, but for another time. Anyway, I was responsible for selling high-volume copiers to corporations and large businesses in the financial district in downtown Chicago, otherwise known as the Chicago Loop. And it was on the morning of October 1987. And only months I had been in my very first real job. And what started out as a typical day ended up being anything but typical. After getting dressed, I headed to the office, stopping by the coffee shop for my usual coffee and muffin before heading over to the elevator banks to carry me up in the high rise to the Kodak offices. That day, as I recall, included the usual appointments with current clients and dropping in with prospective clients. And I was traveling that day with my manager, Lauren. As we headed out of the offices to go visit the clients, it wasn't long before I sensed something strange was going on. This was the day of Black Monday with the largest one-day percentage drop in the history of the Dow Jones. And as we walked from building to building here in the Chicago Loop, little did I know that the scope of what was happening around me. There was panic experienced because of this economic instability, and that was frightening. You could see it on faces. You could see people moving at a clip and looking with a kind of harried brow. So in the following days, weeks, and months, my sales numbers for my high volume copier sales just fell off of a cliff. There was a continuous rush of canceled orders, suspension of equipment renewal, or in fact, equipment being returned because these financial businesses were going out of business. No one could have ever planned for this situation to occur. But one thing I knew for certain, this job wasn't for me. Not only was this job, I felt, not for me, it was a horrible feeling. I had this uncertainty that this job was not going to be around long, or I wasn't going to be around much longer in the job. And I didn't have a plan. And I was the only one responsible for my bills. I had moved into a new apartment in downtown Chicago and was financially dependent on myself. And that is such a scary feeling in the pit of your stomach when you're not sure what the next week is going to bring. So in addition to the uncertainty around my job, and I was no longer having fun and doing what I was doing, and as a 20-something, I didn't have an awareness really of what was going on in this macro event around me. So for me, the next best course of action was to start figuring out how to move on to another job. So I started applying for jobs with other organizations. I was looking for jobs inside of the company. All the while, I remember telling myself, who's going to hire me? This economy is in turmoil. I'm a recent college grad and I don't have much experience. So let's fast forward about 6 months into the spring of 1988 when I found myself again here at this fork of the road, this decision point. As a result of that job search I did end up getting a job offer by IBM as a salesperson, while at the same time, I had managed to create this opportunity for myself, as I mentioned, in this undefined position at Kodak, working as a special assistant to the regional vice president of Kodak. The lesson I learned here now in retrospect is you have to remind yourself, yes, there are jobs available in light of what's going on in the world around us. And you've got to create some distance from the noise of the situation because that is just depleting and it wears you down and it creates doubt. So yes, in one respect, I was fortunate in that I created opportunities for myself, but I created those in the face of what was going on post Black Monday. And what appealed to me here in this decision point with the offer from IBM, first and foremost, it was the dream company where my father wanted me to work. He always saw my strength in my math skills and the outlook for the computer tech industry. He was convinced that my degree from The Ohio State University was going to place me at IBM. So yes, it is an impressive company with a great deal of prestige. There was a great salary and benefits and a sense of security. And looking at that decision point from the outside, choosing the IBM offer was probably the safer bet. However, on the other hand, was this work I began in this undefined role as a special assistant. I really enjoyed having the space to create something in the face of ambiguity. I was actually making a business case for some increased external awareness and visibility for the company, as well as I was working on creating some initiatives for employee engagement. So what I did know at this time was I loved doing what I was doing. I had significant daily pleasure in the work, and I was using my strengths. It was motivating to me. It was meaningful to me. And I knew I was making a positive difference for others. So the decision I made was based largely on which opportunity was more meaningful, brought happiness, and ultimately was moving me closer toward what I didn't know at the time was my life purpose. So I decided to stay at Kodak and venture into the unknown. So like I said, I didn't know I was moving closer to my life purpose, but in actuality, that's what it was. And I had to deal with navigating the conversations with family and friends of, you turned down an offer from IBM and to do what? But that was okay because what made the difference for me was that I knew I was getting up every day and going to work that was purposeful and meaningful for me. So as you hear my story of where I was at a fork in a road and I was kind of led toward my inner compass of what was more meaningful, what's your story? What job did you have or do you have now that's filled you with immense pleasure that you couldn't believe you were getting paid? Or you were easily just losing track of time because it brought you so much satisfaction. I want to hear from you. Send me an email at askcoachmo@gmail.com or simply send me a message on LinkedIn. So if discovering your life purpose seems off in the distance, think about it. How would you be if you approached each new day with a level of high energy, fulfillment, satisfaction, and an unleashed creativity? In a few moments, I'm going to provide you with some cues to help you move toward discovering your life purpose. Because so much of our lives is dedicated to a job or profession, I really believe that the earlier in life you discover your life purpose, you increase your chances of traveling along a path paved with satisfaction and fulfillment. It's natural to consider that life is going to present us with challenges and situations that we never see coming. And in many instances, we do in fact have the power of choice for how we move ourselves forward. By knowing your life purpose, you actually create a guiding principle by which you evaluate your future considerations. Is it realistic to think that your very next job is going to be fully aligned with your life purpose? Well, that's a question only for you to answer. But what I will tell you is that by having defined a life purpose for yourself, you now have an additional evaluation criteria to determine whether this opportunity or that opportunity is moving you closer to what is purpose-driven for you. Just as you consider the salary and compensation, the benefits package, the opportunity for advancement, consider adding life purpose to that list of evaluation criteria and determine how that job and or that company is going to benefit you in moving closer to your purpose. What's important to understand about a life purpose, particularly the statement of your life purpose, is that there are two fundamental parts. The first part is the core. That's the part of your life purpose statement that's likely to be unchanged over your lifetime. You may in fact find that you're drawn to particular causes or situations or places or people. Let me give you just 3 examples of what I mean by core. 1, it may be something as simple as music. Or 2, children with disabilities. Or 3, female entrepreneurs in underdeveloped countries. Now, these are just a few examples. And then there's the second part of your life purpose statement, which is the expression. This is more about what you specifically do to be in alignment with that which is at your core. So expressions and using those 3 examples I just shared is something like, you believe for music that there's something about bringing people together, serving as a bridge for community. And as a result, possibly you spend time volunteering the coordination of emerging musicians with a senior independent living community. Or in the second example, maybe you pursue employment with a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization that provides educational products for children with disabilities. And to the third example, possibly as a side gig, you create an online shop that sells designs or creations by women entrepreneurs in underrepresented countries and have a portion of the proceeds to go back to those communities where those women work. So these are just a few examples of a core and an expression coming together to form a life purpose. And something that's important to point out is in general, the core of your life purpose may be representative of something that really has been unchanged throughout your lifetime. Yet how you express your connection to that core may very well change over your lifetime in a very direct or indirect way. During my years as a coach, I've supported clients in the process of discovering their life purpose, only for them to discover that what they're doing right now in present day is in fact fairly close to the life purpose they say they want. And I've also discovered that clients who are in pursuit of a life purpose, that sometimes they just need to dispel some of the false narrative about what they're telling themselves about what they should be doing, or more importantly, evaluating the aspects of their present life and get to the truth of what's actually getting in the way of them having the satisfaction and fulfillment that they want. And what I've discovered is that clients oftentimes just realize for themselves that they really have developed some bad habits or bad relationships or bad time management. And all of this contributing to overwhelming feelings of stress and anxiety that are in fact clouding their thinking of what their life purpose really is. And just as a side note, if in fact you're experiencing stress and anxiety in a way that's undermining your emotional wellness, be certain to check out my recent podcast on emotional wellness, where I interview Dr. Samantha Madosing. And so again, to what I've observed as a coach supporting clients in pursuit of their life purpose is that once they gain clarity on the realities of their current situation, they're more likely to experience newfound awareness in how they're connecting and, in fact, expressing their life purpose. In Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar's book, Happier, he references research conducted by Dr. Wrzesniewski, an organizational psychologist, and her colleagues who found that people experience their work in one of three ways: as a job, as a career, or as a calling. The person who's working in a job mostly perceives their work as a chore, where the focus is on the financial rewards rather than the personal fulfillment. The person who's on a career path is primarily motivated by those extrinsic factors, such as compensation and job title, and the apparent power and prestige that comes along with that. And then for someone who sees their work as a calling, and that work is an end of itself. This is someone who has intrinsic motivation and experiences high levels of fulfillment from their work. As you consider this range of how people experience work, I'm reminded of the quote by American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "To different minds, the same world is a hell and a heaven." Previously, I referenced the book Happier by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. You may be familiar with this professor, as he conducted one of Harvard's most popular classes on positive psychology. In fact, in post-class evaluations, many students reported that as a result of this course, they experienced improvement in their quality of life. And what stood out for me in this book is the case he makes for happiness being derived at the intersection of pleasure, which is about the here and now and present benefits, and meaning, which comes from our sense of purpose, which is a future benefit of our actions. So happiness isn't reserved for some future point of arrival in our life when we think we then will have some sense of purpose. For example, when someone says, well, one day when I have this, or one day when I'm doing that, all of a sudden I'm going to be happy. So no, it isn't about one day you will become happy. It's about you showing up each and every day and combining pleasure and meaning. Let me share with you a story of my former boss at the Coca-Cola company, Pat Fiorello. And Pat was really an inspiration for me as someone who took ownership of her life and stepped fully in the pursuit of her life purpose, which, in short, prompted her to step out of her senior leadership role at the Coca-Cola company. You see, Pat discovered that she was no longer inspired by the marketing work she was doing at the company. And so while still in her job at the Coca-Cola company, she went on a deliberate pursuit of personal and professional growth to discover what in fact would be inspiring for her. She worked with a coach and she took part in a training program of personal and professional growth. And through her discovery process, she learned that her purpose-driven life is to express beauty, love, and inspiration through art. It became clear to her that the work she was doing in her senior leadership role was really out of alignment with her purpose. So her decision to step off of the corporate path and step into her pursuits of bringing expressions of beauty forward through art was packed with a range of emotions. She said that she considered for herself, well, what actually is the worst that can happen? She didn't have all the answers about her going full throttle into a career centered around her life purpose. But what she did have was confidence in herself, and she was confident in her newfound professional pursuits. And if in fact they didn't work out, she felt she could get a job somewhere to put food on the table and a roof over her head. So for Pat, she made a plan for herself. As she worked during her 9 to 5 at the corporation, she committed to using her time on the weekends and in the evenings in pursuit of this new path. This allowed her to build her knowledge, skills, and self-confidence, along with a deepening of her connection to beauty. And now I can say almost 18 years later, Pat is now an award-winning fine artist and instructor who's living her purpose-driven life that centers around art forms related to beauty. So I do encourage you to check out Pat's amazing body of work at patfiorello.com. I will put that link in the show notes. And I have to mention that Pat actually offers something very unique and unusual in that she does commission paintings of bridal bouquets. So if you want to get that special gift for someone in your life, consider having a commissioned painting of their bridal bouquet. And you can learn all about that at Pat's website. So if you want to gain clarity of your life purpose and possibly of how to gain a closer alignment between your purpose and your profession, there are a variety of processes, and really none is better than the other. It's a matter of what is right for you. So I would suggest, first, be open to the process of self-discovery. Second, make the time to discover. Identify the cues that are around you that offer hints to that which is purpose-driven for you. 2 particular cues I invite clients to consider in my one-on-one coaching is, what do you enjoy doing or reading or discovering in your free time? What do you find yourself daydreaming about? Possibly at your own pace and in your own time with a self-guided process. You may consider taking part in my upcoming e-course of 7 guiding principles to achieve a career advantage. I invite participants to start the process of discovering their life purpose by inviting you to answer several questions for yourself and begin that journey. If you're interested in joining the wait list for this e-course, which will take place in the fall, please visit moniquebetty.com/7 guiding principles. And again, that information will be available for you in the show notes. And third, consider if it's right for you enrolling in a more in-depth self-discovery. There are a number of programs. There are some retreats. There's, in fact, an island retreat called the Purpose Retreat in Jamaica by a Jessica Hugh. There's the Art of Living Retreat Center in North Carolina. But do some research, ask around, and find what is right for you in your pursuit of discovering your life purpose. Now, new points of awareness. 1, how well defined is your life purpose? How are you expressing your purpose through your current work? Or are you? As Oprah said, there's that 3rd law of physics, in that you become what you believe. And I ask, what do you believe about yourself? As that as well may inform What is a cue in moving you closer to discovering your purpose? And 2, if you think that when you discover a life purpose, you will, as a result, be happy, no. Happiness begins for you today. Remember, it's at the intersection of pleasure, which is about present day, and meaning, which is about future benefit. And lastly, everyone has a purpose. And for many, it takes time to discover what that is for yourself. So look for cues in your world that inform you of what brings you immense pleasure, joy, and meaning. The professional journey of a high achiever is long and winding, and it will be more fulfilling and satisfying for you as you increase the clarity within which you hold your life purpose. And now for the part of this segment, Coach Mo knows a tip, a coaching question, and a bit of inspiration. My tip is to learn from your journey. Write out instances in your life when you were possibly at a fork in the road. How did you benefit as a result of the choice you made? Is there a cue there that may support your discovery of your life purpose? This leads me to my coaching question. Look at your present day cues. What is happening in your life today that you want more of in your life? What causes, situations, places, or people are you drawn to? And as for inspiration, this comes from Khalil Gibran. Rest in reason, move in passion. Make it a great day. That's a wrap for this episode of Tuesdays with Coach Mo. Showing up here tells me you're willing to invest in yourself and your career. Get additional resources at TuesdaysWithCoachMo.com. Please subscribe and leave a review. I'd love to get your feedback. Till next time, this is Coach Mo, signing off.
Tuesdays with Coach Mo.